I had a very interesting weekend. I was privy to see a documentary that was very eye-opening for me, and I want to share that with you. But if you're someone who doesn't like more than just surface news, this probably won't interest you and you might as well scroll on. This doesn't just scratch the surface of the corruption going on in our country. It goes deep.
President's former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleading guilty today to lying to the FBI.
Flynn knew exactly how the system worked. He knew exactly what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding. They had to get rid of Flynn.
There was a moment where I just felt like I was drowning. So I'm in there with these other political appointees. They're all supposed to go in there and tell what they believe to be the truth. What they did was they took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
President Obama said, but I do have one specific recommendation. Stay away from Michael Flynn. He's bad news.
Over time, instead of being pounded down below the surface of the ocean, we started to fight. I'm now above the surface.
So if you don't know much about General Michael Flynn, he was not super politically charged. He was just someone who gave his all to this country. He was an extremely decorated and celebrated general, probably one of the most in our time. He was appointed to the Obama administration, not just the first, but the second. So for things to take this turn when he, a Democrat, decided to put his support behind Donald Trump, they then looked at him as dangerous. Now, I got to see the wall of conspiracy up close and personal. The wall spans from like 2010 all the way to 2023 and basically maps out where the conspiracy began and where it is now. Everything that transpired through the Steele dossier, the FISA courts, everything to do with Trump. And it goes to show that a man that was once highly regarded, respected, and admired, how quickly they can tear him apart when it doesn't look like he's going to say what they need him to say. He then immediately becomes the enemy. And they began at that moment to destroy everything that he had worked for and everything going forward, including his family.
I kind of want to have access to the presidency, which they never had, because 65 to 70% of the Republican base and establishment was anti-Trump.
Yeah.
Because we had 17, 18 candidates, right? Trump maximally in the best states that he had to secure the nomination was about 35% back then.
Yeah.
And so 65% represent this wing of the party.
Yep.
And so they have influence and
tons of influence.
A lot of influence.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if we were to pull their text messages and phone conversation, it probably sounded something like this. Donald, if you want us to support you for your presidential bid in the general election, you got to take Mike Pence. If not, that happens.
Yeah.
Now, in case you're unaware, General Flynn was one of the few people that were floated for vice president, and it seemed that Trump could have been leaning toward him. However, he all of a sudden just kind of up and chose Mike Pence.
Opponents. He was the one that allowed judges to decide on who to spy on. And then when you manipulate the evidence, you're also defrauding a court that's already pre-positioned and biased to go after the Trump-Flynn component, right? Go ahead and spy on the Trump campaign because we need leverage over them, but we don't have any.
Do you think they use Twitter DMs?
They may have. Maybe. So Elon Musk, if you're listening in, please release the DMs
Release the
of
DMs.
every single person on this wall. Everyone. What will that show us? I suspect that there'd be some communications coordinations. So anyway, 2017 rolls around. They send 2 people to get Flynn fired or to get him to lie. The RNC folks and the DNC folks, as I just listed, basically, I am almost 100% sure that they were working either separately or concurrently to make sure that they would remove General Flynn, because he could basically, day one, within the second week as the National Security Advisor, you can audit and look at everything from the FISA process, which would have exposed the entire illegal spying operation, and you would expose all the corruption and the fraud, waste, and abuse within our foreign policy establishment, so State Department, all the money laundering going on through that mechanism, the DOD, Department of Defense, and the entire intel community. The National Security Advisor is above all of them. And when you have a relationship, as was explained earlier, with the president, you are in a much stronger position to guarantee a cleansing of the entire apparatus than the vice president, than the director of the CIA, than the director of national intelligence, than the director of the FBI.
And that's when the takedown of General Flynn and his family began. They asked him to change what he was going to say under oath, and he said he would not do that. And that was his first mistake. And this documentary really goes into it from a lot of different perspectives. Perspective that just what they did to him, but also the perspective from his family, what that was like, how they then used his son as a pawn to get him to plead guilty for something that he didn't do. So it's just an extremely interesting, eye-opening movie. And then we had a question and answer afterward, and I just thought it was just, they're such a humble family, and this was such an amazing triumph because he actually came out innocent in the end. They dropped everything, and then he got a pardon, but he didn't get a pardon for actually doing anything. He got a pardon of innocence, so that we all know what happened in 2020, that if Donald Trump did not become president, that they could continue to come after him. So it was a pardon of innocence that has never been done in the history of our country. Here's a couple of moments from the question and answer that I just thought were worthy of y'all seeing.
It's what we decide to do when we get up every day and say, I know people go through this circadian rhythm of life where some days are bad and some days you feel great. But when you get up in the morning tomorrow or the next day, I want you all to be thinking about what more can you do? What more can you do? And every one of us has to do more. We have to do more. And know that you're not alone. Trust me, you're not alone. All of us are together. And like we say, if we can survive this, and the big message of this is, if we can go through this, and America, and rise up, America can rise up. We can definitely do that, and we will.
I just wanted to bring this all to your attention. So if you haven't heard about this documentary coming out, maybe you find one of the places that it's going to be being shown in your location, or maybe you wait till it's out to be streamed. But it is a must-see and very, very, very eye-opening, especially if you have been watching the chaos that has surrounded Donald Trump since he announced his presidency. So do all the things, like, subscribe, and I will do more of this type of content. Have a great day.